Hello and welcome to Tea Leaves Programming. Today we're gaming like it's 1979 with a modern game. So every so often a Wizardry alike will come out and I will play it, and some of them I like, some of them I don't like. This one I love. This is charming. This game is called Labyrinth of Zangetsu in English, and in Japanese it's called Zangetsu no Sakyu. It is by Acquired and a development house called Kairu Panda. And it's got a lot to recommend it, and I think it is a very misunderstood game. So what's the high-level pitch? Well, let me use my trusty gamepad. You can, by the way, play this with a keyboard and mouse if you prefer. I think the gamepad works a little better. Let's hop in here. You can see I have one save game so far, and I'm 3 dungeons in at this point. The first thing you'll notice is, wow, what a really striking look, right? This is like black and white, made of ink. And so right away, the aesthetics are what is going to jump out at you as different about this game. The aesthetic is a Japanese ink painting or vibe, and in some ways it takes inspiration from the ukiyo-e tradition. And you can see there's a little bit of anime here in the character portraits. Let me go into the status screen. You can see we have these portraits, and they're like a fusion between ukiyo-e painting and modern anime style. Perhaps that's me showing my ignorance about what derives from what. But the names here, I think these net character names are all generated by the game. You can name your own characters, but I just took their random ones. There we go, that's a little better, and I was also cutting off some of the text. I apologize. So we're going to go through the maze here, and I'm midway through this maze. So you could see that we do have a mini-map. The mini-map fills in automatically as you play. And so we don't get to see me doing my traditional I want to map the maze myself in Gridmonger dance. But Japanese with a wizardry flavor is not by itself a new concept. But this game does bring some new concepts to it. And I'll talk about those as we play. So you see this cloud of fog here. What this game does that is interesting is actually not the aesthetics. The aesthetics are very interesting, and we'll see that when we go into combat. But the gameplay changes, I think, from standard wizardry, really, really smart. First major change is that while there are random encounters that you don't plan for, they seem much more rare than in regular wizardry. And the most common type of encounter is this, a cloud of fog. And not only can you plan for these encounters in the sense of, oh, when I step on this square, there will be a fight, you can try to sneak past them. Doesn't always work. I'd say I've got about a 30% success rate. But in some cases, you can try to sneak through an encounter. And as in this case, it hasn't worked. We have a friendly enemy here, so we could fight them, or we could, let's wait and see what happens. Okay, so they left. As in traditional wizardry, your characters have opinions on whether your action was correct, and they can join or leave, or their alignments may change as a result of that. Well, I want to actually see a combat before talking more about some of the differences. Let me get out of sneak mode here. All right, we've got some slimes here. So the previous combat you saw were these weasels, and these are things called new Peppo. These are yokai. So that's the big change here story-wise. You're not going to a dungeon and fighting abstract monsters, from Dungeons and Dragons. You're fighting monsters from Japanese folklore, essentially. So I mentioned before, I said something along the lines of, wizardry is no stranger to Japanese takes on it. But that means something very specific, right? Wizardry was made by 2 American college students, essentially. And so it was Dungeons and Dragons with what? With samurai and ninja just kind of thrown in by them. So it wasn't an authentic, really. It didn't come from. I say this with all full respect to Robert Woodhead and Andrew Greenberg, who I believe were sincere, but they weren't Japanese, and so it came from an American kind of point of view of Japanese culture. And so obviously the Wizardry Gaiden games brought perhaps more authentic Japanese vibe, because those were made in large part by Japanese teams who were thrilled, I think, that Samurai and Ninja were in the original Wizardry. I think that's one of the reasons why Wizardry was so influential in Japan. And we've seen anime-like games such as Etrian Odyssey that really took the Wizardry model and fused it with a quite different aesthetic, and did so very successfully. So the basic fight loop is 100% Wizardry, right? Your first level party of 3 people in front and 3 people in back. Your fights are all going to be fight, parry, parry, parry. We have a few more options here now because my guys in the back have some weapons that have reach. We can, of course, cast magic. It's a slightly different magic system from Wizardry, but roughly the same. You will recognize many of these spells. And I think everything is 10 levels instead of 9. In this case, because this is, well, we'll do a low level spell here. I don't want to waste we'll do a force bolt. We'll do force bolt that one. All right. After you give all your orders, just as in Wizardry, we fight. When I say Wizardry, by the way, I mean Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. This is basically Wizardry 1 to 3 in folklore Japan. We get some experience points, and we get a treasure chest, which probably is trapped. So here's another small difference from Wizardry. And when I said earlier that the changes were smart, this is the type of thing that I mean. So first of all, you could see that we have a visual representation above each character of how likely they are to succeed at the operation. My thief at this point is level 10, so he's in pretty good shape. And then your unlocking process, instead of simply being a simple up or down based on the type of trap, a lock can have multiple traps, and you can trigger a different trap when triggering one of them. And sometimes you could simply have a lock. So we got some money, and we got some armor. And the armor has a little question mark next to it, so therefore it's unidentified. What does smart mean? Again, I'm going to give you another example. Wizardry players are disgustingly conservative. And I don't mean politically conservative. I mean in terms of anything that changes about the game, some of them will get upset about. The reason for this is that there is a mistaken belief that, well, the difficulty of the game is what makes it unique. First of all, it's not true. There's plenty of games that are harder than Wizardry. But second of all, Wizardry has multiple types of difficulty. There's the fun difficulty, which is figuring a way through the maze, building your characters, and calculating risk-reward. Wizardry is a game of like poker where you're constantly pressing your luck. And sometimes when you press your luck, you get great rewards. And sometimes when you press your luck, you experience disaster. So it has that kind of fun. It also has the not fun kind of difficulty. The way objects are identified in Wizardry is one of those ways. Only one type of character, the bishop, can identify characters. Leveling bishops takes forever and a day, or you can go back to town and identify characters. So the way that this game does it is they made identification a skill that any character can do, and they made some characters better at it than others. Bishops, or sages as they're called, are still better than everyone else, but your thief has a pretty good chance of being able to identify lower level merchandise. If you're playing Wizardry 1, 2, or 3, you're constantly trudging back to town because you're holding a bunch of garbage that you don't know for sure is garbage and you can't take the risk of throwing it out. Here, when you pick up your trash, you can generally identify it. And actually, chainmail's a pretty good armor, but I'm already wearing most of that. In fact, as long as we're in that screen, I'll show you very briefly the identification screen. Very similar to Wizardry 1. Here you can see that little thing, that little symbol means there's something that another piece of armor we could wear. In this case, it's the same as the one I've got, so no reason to actually do it. And that's what it looks like when you're not wearing everything. All right. So, smart changes. Being able to see the combat coming up lets you do a little bit of tactical planning. Changing the way identification works. Red fog here means that this enemy might be a little bit stronger than the black fog enemy. So you're getting signals from the game as to what you're about to walk into to tell you if you want to take that risk. Let's go ahead and trigger that combat. A friendly enemy. All right, well, I've got a shocking number of friendly enemies. That does not normally happen. And here is a ladder going down. So I think I've been reading the reviews and the Steam comments for this game with fascination. And I feel some sympathy for the creators of the game because they are clearly stuck between a rock and a hard place. The hyper-conservative Wizardry players, some of them are upset about every change that makes the game a little more approachable. Let's cast a spell here. Our mage will cast a spell that will tell us what direction we're facing. If you look at the map here, you can see there's a little circle saying where we are. If we cast this orientation spell, that circle will change into an arrow. And now we know what direction we're facing. The players who are not Wizardry devotees are just shocked by how hard the game is and the amount of grinding you have to do. The grinding comment from them, we're going to cast light here, and then I'm going, actually, do I have a torch so that I don't have to cast light? I do not, I forgot to bring a torch. The players who are not experts are shocked by the difficulty, and it's because they don't understand this push your luck versus run back to the castle game. And the game tries to signal this. There are signs that kind of recommend, have you gone back to the castle yet? But the typical vibe for most modern games is you just keep going, right? I'll just keep playing, and then at some point there will be a signal I can't ignore that I have to go back to my home base. In modern games, it's usually some sort of teleport, right? You can teleport back to your home base from here. In this game, what they do is, as you explore the dungeon, or a dungeon, you change levels, and changing levels saves the game. And you can change zones. This is a quest that I'm on to relight these lanterns. So let me interrupt myself and we'll relight the lantern. These are, I think, lanterns for departed spirits. We're in a graveyard right now. All right. So when you change zones, i.e. when you go to a new area, at that point you can teleport to that area. And so that's a pretty clear signal like, oh, this is a good place to stop. I think what's necessary for modern players, certainly for Western players, is a more explicit signal. All right, so you see those little bubbles? That would have blown out my light. So now that I've walked past that, now I'll cast a spell. So the game, if you're paying attention, practically begs you to walk into a dungeon, have a couple fights, run back home. Walk into a dungeon, have a couple fights, walk back home. Every time you go back to the castle, all your wounds are healed, your spells are restored. So there's really no reason to not do it. But if you don't realize that, I think that this game would be frustrating because you would just keep playing until, oh, I'm going to go until I find a teleport, and you will not find one, generally. Okay. So we've got, I see off there in the distance, third from the left, there's a lamp. And I don't think I could reach it from here. Oh, we have a random battle. How unusual. The other thing that I think is a hard sell for this game, and I'm not convinced this is only for Westerners, is the ink aesthetic is beautiful. I think it's hard to decode for many people. I think that if you're not really paying attention and appreciating it, it looks kind of drab, right? This is a mechanic that was introduced. If you look down at the third character from the left, Ayami, you can see she lost some hit points from the battle, but she also has a little purple bar. And this is a concept known as corruption. So since she has been corrupted, she now cannot go back to her maximum hit points. And the game intimates that there are other consequences to this, that perhaps being badly corrupted may cause other issues. I'm not sure what those are yet, but I guess I'm going to find out. All right, so now we have a nice pack of enemies. So let's use oh, it's just 2 and 1. Oh, we'll use a nice spell anyway. You can see I'm doing a good bit of damage here. I've done quite a lot of upgrading of my weapons. By upgrading, I simply mean finding weapons in the dungeon, finding better weapons and using them. There's not been a lot of magic treasure. The variety of treasure so far has been very, very narrow. Most of the treasure I've bought, I've sold for money. Money is very important in this game. Oh, she's getting quite a bit of corruption here. Maybe I'm going to find out what happens when we have a lot of corruption. You can see on the bottom there's a number next to a sword that represents, I guess, your attack level. And the number next to the helmet is effectively your armor class. Ooh, my thief failed. Did not trigger the trap, though, so that's good. We got a few swords. Let's heal Ayame up with some... we'll use medicine. I've got lots of medicine, so... Alright, this is also a dead end. In many places in the dungeon you need to search to find a way forward. That is not this case. Wow, it's really over there. Really tucked away. Interesting. So that thing is in the middle. No, I must have just not gone far enough. I literally just didn't step far enough. Oops. So, I love this art style. I think it's great. I do think the fact that it's black and white may be turning some people off. I encourage them to get past it. I think it is just a wonderful look for the game. And, you should give it a chance. I really like the way that they abstracted out the boring difficulty of Wizardry, but left in the hard difficulty. So what do I mean? Or the fun difficulty. So what do I mean by fun difficulty? The game begins, and you cannot go to any of the dungeons. You have to either create or recruit some pre-made characters. Let's go ahead and... You know what? I don't know what those guys in back do. Writhing humanoid. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to silence them in case they're spellcasters. And then we'll cast a firestorm on them for good measure while my fighters deal with the front row. You have to create your characters or recruit your beginning characters and take them through the tutorial dungeon. The tutorial dungeon gives you basic weapons, pretty much very little opportunity to find anything better, and has a tough boss fight at the end of it. I am an experienced Wizardry player. I created 3 fighters, a thief, a priest, and a mage, and went through that dungeon and came through it with all of my fighters dead, my thief dead, I think, my priest dead. My fighters and my thief dead, and my priest and my mage were completely out of spells. So they survived by, batting them on the head with their shoe, and just barely survived. And I thought to myself, oh, well, this is a tutorial level. When I get out of this dungeon, they'll say congratulations and heal my dead characters for me. No, they're dead. And if you want to heal them, you have to heal them in wizardry terms, which means going to this is a new piece of equipment for me. You have to heal them in wizardry terms, which means going to the temple and paying money. The amount of money you pay is gargantuan, far beyond what you're going to have even to the middle part of the game. And as in traditional wizardry, the resurrection can fail. So I left them dead. I created new characters and went with them instead. That's a fun level of risk reward. That was fun. And so then I'm going into the dungeon with, I'm going into the dungeon with these 2 characters who are level 3 because they made it through that tutorial dungeon. And then I've recruited a bunch of scrubs, who are basically cannon fodder, with the intention that these 2 cynical, evil characters are going to just burn through cannon fodder and use them for their own advantage. So the alignment stuff is a mechanic that I have not engaged with fully. This is another aspect that has changed from original Wizardry and has changed in a smart way. So original Wizardry, 1, 2, and 3, put all sorts of restrictions on what characters can be what classes. This does not do this. If you want to have a neutral priest or an evil samurai, you can go ahead and do it. What they do instead is they lock the skills, or they lock certain of those skills behind your alignment. So that's one way in which it changes. And I think that's great because it means you can dip into a class if you really have an idea and you're willing to give up those skills. So for example, the ninja class, evil ninjas have better melee and neutral ninjas have better ranged combat. It's an interesting way of treating that trade-off. And now we're going to lose our light. That's okay, because we're going to step here and we'll immediately recast it. The other mechanic that I haven't engaged with at all is that your party gets bonuses and not debuffs, but bonuses or a lack of bonus, depending on the composition of your party. The 2 that jump out to me, I'll have to look up. I'm going to look this up right now because I've forgotten what I'm not doing it, so I don't remember the actual bonuses. One of the good bonus is that you are more likely to be able to resurrect characters successfully if all the characters in your party are good. If you have 1 evil character in your party, then going to resurrect has a higher chance of failing, which I discovered to my chagrin. You can game this, you can drop people out of the party temporarily. I believe that an all-evil party, if I recall correctly, your magic spells do more damage, which is a huge buff, which I am foregoing by wanting to have a mixed party, because that's the way I roll. That looks interesting, but it's nothing. All right, I see the lantern that we're looking for over there. Hopefully it'll be just very straightforward to walk this way, and it is. Don't recall how many of these I need to fix before going back to my friendly ghost and telling them that I've done it. So this is Labyrinth of Zangetsu. To the developers, if you're watching, I love your game. I really think that you made a bunch of really smart decisions here. My complaints or my critiques of the art style, I mean, this is a trade-off. You'd wanted to make a game with this very specific, this beautiful, ink painting, yokai aesthetic, and you have. I'm so glad that you did this. I hope that people will see that even beyond the unique aesthetic, you brought intelligence and some really interesting game design to this game. I just love what you've done. So thank you. I'm going to finish up this battle, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut back to the castle, assuming I can make it back in one piece, which I think I should be able to. And we'll show you a little bit of the things you could do at the castle, and then we'll finish this up, because I know this has been kind of a long video. What do you expect? We're talking about a Wizardry game, so of course I'm going to blather on about it endlessly for hours and hours. All right, let's go back to the castle. I will briefly review healing at the temple and the character changes, and then we'll be done. Okay, when you leave the labyrinth, you get a summary of what happened to your characters. If you leveled up, it will level up here. There is some save scumming you can do. You could quit the game and reload back in the dungeon. The game saves every time you enter a level. So if you're really determined to have your stats go up instead of down, or have a certain stat go, that's an option for you. There is no resting at the end, which I think, again, is a very smart change. Resting at the end in Wizardry is drudgery. It accomplishes nothing. It's a random UI affordance that you are obligated to do. The other thing that's really smart here is the way they do inventory. Each character has the things they're wearing, and then there is a shared party inventory that holds everything. This is the way to do it. Every time I play 5 Ordeals, I love Wizardry the 5 Ordeals, but it has the Wizardry 1, 2, 3 style inventory where you are constantly juggling items back and forth between characters. Adds no actual challenge to the game and is boring as watching grass grow. So this is a good choice. You can see we have some of our quest items here. We have some usable things. I'm going to go ahead and sell all this stuff because I have better equipment. How much? Iron Helm 500. Okay. Once you sell an item to the store, then the store has them to sell. I think they only have as many as you sell. Let me take a few torches since I'm in a... Right. So what do I mean by this game is Wizardry 1, 2, 3? Here we go. Chapter is exactly analogous to the inn. Trading post is the trading post where you can buy and sell things. Once you've bought everything there is to buy, there's never any reason to go here other than, getting things you've already sold there. The temple is where you resurrect people. It is also where you heal this purification. So you could see up in the upper right corner, I have about 20,000 gold pieces. And to heal her relatively small amount of purification cost me 1,300. So nearly what, 5% about? That's a lot. And this number goes up with the character's level. So when I heal purification, she'll recover all her hit points. They don't make me heal her again, which is very nice. And then we can go into the maze itself. We also get a chance to choose which maze we're going to enter. I love the game. I really do. I think that this is such a beautiful game and also, as I said, a smart game. Since it saves at the beginning of the level, the way that I finish the game, usually, is I go into the maze and then just quit. Oh, I said I was going to talk about character classes. So let's go here to our Manage Conscript screen. We have my characters. You can see these are the pre-made characters that come with you, with the game, named through like 1 through 6. You can see I have some dead characters at the bottom here. So can I change classes? Yes. Class change works very similarly to the way that it works in Wizardry 1, 2, and 3, in that you have to have a certain level of stats in order to get there. And you can see here that I know I eventually want this character to be a paladin, which is kind of the equivalent to the Lord, or a Lord. So he barely has enough stats in order to be a paladin, which is good to know. And I could change him right now. Why wouldn't I want to change him right now? Well, because, well, let me show you some of the other character classes. So what have we got? I think Monk is a different class to Wizardry. This is basically an unarmed damage class. And of course we have Samurai, which is similar to that in Wizardry 1, 2, and 3. I have found equipment so far that is specific to the Samurai, such as, of course, a katana. Why haven't I changed their classes yet? Because of the skill system. This is an addition to Wizardry, and it is a good one. So you can see here we have these warriors, and they have these list of skills over here. You acquire these skills as you level up in the class. So for example, I believe warrior level 10 gave this melee mastery level 3. This is, I believe, a permanent bonus. Once you have it forever, even if you change classes to something else. So to give you a very specific example, you'll recall I said the only survivors of my tutorial were my wizard and my priest. I actually changed my wizard to a warrior and leveled her to level 3. Specifically so she could get 10 free hit points. Wizards in Wizardry are famously squishy. Does not take a lot of experience points to level up to level 3. So the power gamer way to deal with this, of course, is to, especially with your warriors, but really with everyone, get to the level where you get the last really good but easy to get skill, which is around level 12 for many of these character classes, and then rotate them through the classes and just collect these skills, which give you permanent armor class bonuses to hit bonuses. So that is a complete addition to Wizardry 1, 2, and 3, certainly. I haven't played enough Wizardry 6 to know if it works that way. But really, really smart. So, Labyrinth of Zangetsu. Clearly a love letter to the Wizardry game. Do not sleep on this. If you are watching this when I recorded it, which is on October 4th of 2025, the Steam Autumn Sale is going on right now. And this game is really, really cheap at the moment. It is selling for $10. Look, come on, for $10, this game, it's a no-brainer. Labyrinth of Zangetsu. I was playing a bunch of other games. I started playing this, and guess what? I've set them aside so that I could play this. Oh, and I would be remiss if I did not mention I am playing this game on a Macintosh. It is a Windows-only game. It plays perfectly in crossover preview on an M2 Mac. So if you have an M2 or better, certainly, and I suspect it would work fine on an M1 as well, no reason to not play this game. To the developers, there are those of us out there with Macs who would, and in fact did, buy your game. You've been watching Tea Leaves Programming. Today we were gaming like it's 1979. Thanks for watching.